Hey everyone, welcome back to Drive It Out. My name is Adam, and for the last week I have been driving this new Hyundai Tucson Hybrid Limited all-wheel drive. This is a 2025 model, and they've refreshed some things here. They've really sharpened things up, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. And I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised with some of those tweaks, and I'm here to show you them in detail. Also, I got to take this on a bit of a road trip, so I really got to test out and see what it's like to spend a lot of time behind the wheel. So let's get right into some of the details on this Hyundai Tucson. All right, everyone, right off the bat, I want to talk about the exterior. This vehicle, the paint looks black in most lights. It really does, and it may even look like it on camera, but when I was given the details on this vehicle, the tag said deep sea. So I initially thought, oh, this Hyundai Tucson is gonna be blue. And I tell you what, I walked outside and walked around looking for it, and I saw the black one, but I kept looking around. I actually walked past this because I thought I was looking for a blue or a teal or something like that. Turns out, no, this was it. I hit the button on the key fob and this thing lit right up. And as I got closer to it and looked deep into the paint, I noticed, you know what? It is blue, and it has a beautiful flake in it actually. So it's a very dark blue, hence the name Deep Sea. But I really like the color. I've grown to like it this week, especially with the contrast of the light colored interior. Now, let's talk about the front end of this vehicle, because this is one of the main places where they've done this revising of the exterior. This is what we would call a facelift, right? So you've got a little bit sharper edges here in the front. Obviously, all the LED lighting that comes in front of many Hyundai vehicles these days, especially the Tucson, looks really cool, especially at night. So I have to say that they did some light touching here to kind of freshen it up, but they didn't go crazy. As we continue down the side of the vehicle and talk about the styling, you have this unique line that goes down just below the belt line, right? This line goes all the way to the back of the vehicle, kind of gives it that nice downward sporty look. But they've added these creases here that are unique. You've got two of them, and you will see this theme goes around the other parts of the vehicle. So again, you have these two creases right here. Now look, you come here to the back and you've got more of these angles at two, right? First you have the taillights that come down here at an angle, two right here. You're gonna have these two lines right down here, and you kind of just have that theme throughout the vehicle. Two here on the corner lights. And I tell you what, I actually have really grown to like the styling of this. It's pretty bold design for the exterior, and I think they've only sharpened that up for 2025. And I really think with this dark color and contrast with that interior color, this is a very sharp design overall. Hey there, I'm excited that you found Drive It Out. I've been doing this for over 5 years now, and it's been a blessing meeting and working alongside so many amazing people. It's been a lot of fun driving so many awesome vehicles. Whatever type of vehicle you are interested in, chances are we have a video for that. So if you'd like to subscribe and maybe even hit the notification bell, that would absolutely mean the world to me. If there's something you're looking for that you don't see, feel free to reach out in the comments or send me a message on Instagram. Now, back to the video. Now again, here at the back, they've really dressed it up with the taillights right here, and then you've got this reflector that comes all the way across. But something that is unique back here is they actually have incorporated the Hyundai logo kind of into the window right here. I really like that. Now, something else that does make things unique here at the back is most of its competitors have the button to open the hatch here, and on this vehicle it's actually down here below, right above the bumper. All right, everyone, while we're on styling, let's go ahead and talk about the interior, because there's been some pretty significant changes in here compared to the previous model year, and the vast majority of it is for the better. I am really liking what they have done in here. So what is immediately striking at first about getting inside has to be the dash, right? You've got this full screen in front of you. Now, the screen runs from the left side of the steering wheel all the way through the gauges into the infotainment system and stops over here just before the passenger. And what they've done is they've kept it actually below the dash line, and I like that. They're thinking about visibility outward here, and I enjoy that. They have not put in a screen that completely takes over the center stack of this vehicle. It's a nice, good sized screen, They kept it separate from where your climate control is. This gives them a nice spot here in the middle to put vents. What you may be hearing through the grapevine is a lot of us are kind of over everything being built into the touchscreen, all the functionality. They have a good screen up here. It is touchscreen, right? But now for this model year, they've added you some buttons. So prior to 2025, you had a climate control system that was only touch. Now, what they've done is they've added a few knobs. I do have a volume knob, a tuning knob over here, and I do have knobs in my climate control here for quick adjustment of temperature. They still have kept the fan speed on a touch here. So that means I'm driving, I'm looking down the road. I can't just go like this and adjust my fan speed real quick. I have to look where my finger is and look where I'm touching, and I have to touch the fan speed. I either hold there or tap, right? And I tell you what, I am one of those people. I like to have good solid buttons and a few knobs that I can memorize and then easily reach to. Maybe I'm pulling into a drive-through for food, or a bank drive-through, or pulling over real quick to talk to a neighbor who I see outside, and I want to instantly be able to lean out my window as I brake and reach over here and turn something down without having to look like and having to look over here while I'm trying to pull over quickly or pull in somewhere. It's just common sense functionality that I like to see with good buttons and knobs. Now you say, you know what? A lot of cars now, you have voice activation. You can tell it to change the temperature or what's going on with your media up here in the infotainment. Of course you can do that, but no voice command is ever going to be as quick as the quick reach and spin, right? It's just never going to beat that. Okay, I'm done harping about the buttons and the knobs and the switches. They've done a good job in here. I'm gonna give them a pass on still having some things here in the touchscreen, because they really made a good effort to make things function here well. And these buttons and this setup makes sense. It really incorporates into the infotainment well. Now, if you'll notice, my center console has changed too. If you are familiar with previous model years, they have totally changed things up here between the front driver and passenger seat. You still have some buttons here on the center console, and this is kind of interesting, the buttons that they've chose to put here. You have your hill descent control and your parking alert system and your drive mode switch. Your drive mode switch kind of makes pretty good sense for me down here, but this is interesting to have some of these functions here where your arm or your hand might rest while you are driving. Some of this I normally see on a lot of vehicles is maybe over here by your left knee if it's not somewhere else up here in the middle. So it is, I don't mind buttons here, but the ones that they've chosen to put here are unique. Now, a lot of them have to do with maybe driving in the moment. You know, you're looking to change your drive mode or turn auto hold on or off when you're in stop and go traffic. So I kind of get that there's a theme here, but I just think it's kind of interesting choices. Now, something you will notice is not here anymore. You've been able to get on previous Hyundai Tucsons is a shift lever or a shift button system that was here in the center console. They have foregone those things. I like a good shift lever because, again, that's something I can grab when I'm not looking and do and make work without looking down at it and look somewhere else. That may seem like something little to you, but I tell you what, when you live and drive with a vehicle all the time, having those things that you can memorize and do while keeping your eyes somewhere else is valuable. But there is no more shift lever here in the middle, no more shift buttons. What they've done is they've gone to this stock on the side of the steering wheel. And other than it being kind of a odd and unique shape, I actually quite like the functionality of this shifter here on the column. I've gotten used to it as I've driven it over the past week, and it's easy to use. It has some dexterity and some function to it. Sometimes in new vehicles, we get knobs that sometimes they turn and all the way, or sometimes you have to one-click them right or one-click them left till you get where you want to go. Sometimes we do have touch screen or weird buttons for putting a vehicle in forward or reverse, and this is way better than that. I will say I don't mind the shifter here on the column, and once I got used to it, which happened very quickly, I actually like it quite a bit. So you push on the side for park. That's the most unique thing about it. Other than that, you twist upward to go into drive, you twist downward to go into reverse, and then one small twist up will put you in neutral. And then whatever gear you are in, just pushing P on the side puts you in park. Also, if you are in drive and you just reach to turn the vehicle off, it will throw it into park for you. So gone are the days in most vehicles of having a shift lever that's actually connected to the transmission. Most things now are electronic, and I actually don't mind if you're going to do that. If you're going to move away from the shift lever, I actually don't mind this shifter here. The other thing I will say is in many vehicles, we talk a lot here on Drive It Out about what vehicles are like to drive, right? You can look at the spec sheets, read a brochure, look things up online, but I tell you, we're trying to get you as close as we can through video as to knowing what it's going to be like to be in the vehicle and drive it, the things you're going to be touching and feeling and how they function. That's really what we're here to help with. So here at Drive It Out, we care a lot about what you do with the steering wheel. Now, I've been in some vehicles. I'm thinking of a high-end Roadster I was in not that long ago that had so many levers behind the steering wheel, plus paddle shifters. There was just so much going on behind the steering wheel, and I found myself when I was going for blinker or something else, I was always hitting the wipers too by accident, and I didn't like that. So you can make things too busy back here. I say all that to say what they've done here with this Hyundai Tucson Hybrid is they have your levers back here, your lights on the left, your wipers on the right, and then your shift lever down here lower to the right. The way they've spaced them out and the way they've placed them keeps them away from my paddle shifters and where I'm going to have my hands on the steering wheel. Nice job. I get in here and the steering wheel actually feels pretty sporty to me. That gives me more confidence when I'm driving. Now, they haven't gone full sporty steering wheel. They haven't given you a flat bottom or anything like that, but it is almost a perfect circle, but it's nice and small and tight. And while I'm on the steering wheel, I'll mention the steering ratio on this car makes sense. It's good, sharp steering. It's very responsive. There's not a lot of deadness in the wheel when you're driving, and that is kind of rare for a hybrid. So I like that they've kind of kept a nice responsive feel here in the steering wheel. It makes sense when I'm driving at both low speeds and high speeds when I give it inputs and the way that the vehicle responds. So now that we've kind of talked about the functionality of the interior, let's talk about the niceties inside. They are kind of using a plethora of materials in here. Not only do you have different colors, right, but you have different materials everywhere you go. I'm counting quickly 1, 2, 3, 4 different materials that they've all made flow very well together. Again, this is the limited trim, so they are throwing everything at this interior, but they've done a nice job. They haven't gone crazy with the gloss black. There's just a little bit, I think, just the right amount maybe in here. I like that you've got it on your door around the switches. You've got a very tiny bit here on the center console, and that's about it. Just a little bit of gloss black around the trim of this. I kind of enjoy that because I do think it looks nice, but if you do too much gloss black in some vehicles, you instantly start to scratch it and smear it everywhere, and it just never looks as good as it could. So this is a nice balance. They've given you a unique texture on these other materials up here on the dash, some grippy texture up here if you're going to set something up here or down here in the middle, and some nice soft touch spots here on the dash and on the doors both. This light colored interior is light, so it looks excellent when it's new. Beware if you are looking for one of these down the road a few years and it's used, you might have some blue jean stains on the seats. Maybe if someone had kids and made the decision of buying a light colored interior with kids, which is not always the best idea, you might have some stains or some spots to look for. But I've got a wireless charger here in the middle. I like where my cup holders are at. I've got a cup holder in the door as well. I spent a lot of time in this vehicle coming home from Wisconsin all the way back here to Kansas City, Missouri, and I felt quite comfortable in here. I like the way that this thing rides. All right, guys, let's look at the second row and the back of this vehicle before we start talking about the powertrain a little bit. I always like to get in and sit behind myself. So I have the front driver's seat here moved to the position where I sit when I drive, and I go see what it's like to sit behind me. Now I'm 5'11", so I'm not quite 6 feet, and I have more than ample space back here. I even have to say that if you had to sit a third person in here, I've seen a lot of other SUVs in this class that don't have this much space in the middle for a center person. It would not be ideal, but if you had to put a third person in the middle back here, you could do it more easily than some of the other vehicles in this class. But this feels very nice back here. I've got my own vents, I've got my own power outlet down here that's USB-C, and I tell you what, I don't feel left out here in the back seat as far as them bringing the quality of the interior back here to the back seat. They have done a good job of continuing those materials that I talked about up front and bringing them here into the back seat for your rear seat passengers. Now, I want to talk about one of my favorite features of this vehicle while I'm here in the back seat, and that is the sunroof. So you've got glass from up in the front seat just behind the rear view mirror all the way back here to above my head as a backseat passenger, and I have really enjoyed using this. Not only does it look nice, but when you use it, it functions really well. So you have the function where you pop up the sunroof, and it's very good at being not too loud and just providing some good airflow and ventilation. And you also can have the glass slid back. It slides back about a third of the way, right? But when you have it open, it has kind of a windscreen that pops up in front of it that really helps keep noise down. So I've been driving in this vehicle with my wife up front, my 2 kids in the back, and I've been able to have that sunroof open, and the wind noise has really not bothered anyone. I've been able to drive at a decent speed, and it's very comfortable in here. So they did a really good job with this roof. But as far as back seats go, this is pretty darn good, and I'm liking the space back here. All right, guys, let's talk about the space that you have here in the back. Okay, so when you move in here, you'll notice that once you get over the bumper, right, this is going to be your load height, what you have to lift up something over. But once you get in here, you kind of go down a little bit, and it's going to add to that dimension of your storage back here. You can fold that second row down, but some other unique things I want to talk about back here are you do have a 12-volt power outlet here. That is always handy to have, but your buttons to put the seats down, your levers are right here, and those work quite well. So I do have to say that this subwoofer here in the side is part of the Bose audio system in this vehicle, and the Bose system sounds very good. Now, it's a limited trim. You expect to have a nice sound system, and Bose seems to do a really good job with vehicles of, especially of this size. The sound always surprises me. It sounds a little bit better than I think it should be. You know, sometimes you get in here and you think, man, where are they putting all these speakers? It's maybe something you would expect from a much larger vehicle. You get in, it has a great sound system, you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. They could put 500 speakers in here because this vehicle is so large. That's not the case here in a vehicle this size, but Bose has done an excellent job. Now, I have seen some vehicles where Bose incorporates the subwoofer into the middle of the spare tire under here. There's no spare tire here in the back of this vehicle, so you do have that subwoofer here on the side, but you do have a tire mobility kit under here. So if you get a flat, it's basically a slime kit, right? But good ample room back here. They have given you the dark color, and that is good. So even though you've got the light colored seats, you get that dark color back here, and that's going to help it keep from showing all of the scratches after you've loaded and unloaded things back here over your period of time of owning the vehicle. All right, everyone, so let's talk about the powertrain here. Now, you can get the Tucson without a hybrid setup. You just get a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and have 187 horsepower. When you go to the hybrid system here, not only are you getting more efficiency, but you are getting more power. So you now have a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder paired to this hybrid system, and that is going to give you a total of 231 horsepower and 258 foot-pounds of torque. Now, they do offer a PHEV, that's a plug-in hybrid, right? And you get a little bit more horsepower there. You get the same torque at 258, but you go up 37 horsepower from 231 to 268. Now, I will say that typically when you get the hybrid version of a vehicle, you expect it to be more heavy than the non-hybrid version, which it is, but you also expect it to drive more heavy. And I think they've actually done a really good job here with this hybrid system of still making it feel pretty lively to drive. It is under 4,000 pounds, which is good because as things get so heavy these days, I do like that this stayed below 4,000 pounds. And I think that helps to that feel, that good driving feel that it maintains for being a hybrid. But the power delivery is good. And I tend to really like the way that this transmission works with that. That's right, this is a 6-speed automatic transmission, and there is a little bit of the secret I really want to focus on for this powertrain that I think makes it work so well. So many times when you go for a hybrid powertrain, more often than not, you are getting a CVT transmission or eCVT setup. They have not done that here. Hyundai has refused to do that. They've stuck with a real automatic transmission, and the 6-speed automatic transmission serves this vehicle well. If you jump out of one and you get into another manufacturer's vehicle that is a hybrid that has the CVT, you instantly want to be back in this vehicle. And I noticed that so much when I'm driving this. I'll be driving and I think, I'm so glad this does not have a CVT transmission because it would really taint the driving experience. And I'm so glad that they didn't do that. That is one of the things, and maybe the most important thing, that makes this vehicle a joy to drive. Now, the drive modes is something I really want to talk about here real quick, because this vehicle has 4 different drive modes. You have eco mode, you have snow mode, you have my drive, and you have sport mode. Now, I have a little bit of a quibble with a couple of these. When you go into sport mode in this vehicle, it is lively, I like it, but they turn the regen braking way up when you go into sport mode. So if you are typically driving in eco mode or my drive, something like that, and suddenly you go over to sport mode, as soon as you take your foot off the gas, if you're not ready for it, that vehicle is going to slow down really quick. Now, I get it. If you are really driving a vehicle for sport mode aggressively, right? You think about, like, if you're on track in a car, you are all on the gas or you are all on the brake. I understand the braking hard in that kind of situation, but in this vehicle, sport mode, I really don't think is meant for that. I think when someone puts it into sport mode, they just want the transmission to respond a little bit quicker. They want the revs to maybe be allowed to go a little bit higher. They want to play with the paddles on the transmission, and they don't really expect the braking to change. It did. I understand it. I understand that it's sporty, but I think that the overly aggressive regen braking in sport mode is a little too much. Now, that said, when you are in eco mode, the vehicle is clearly trying to be most efficient. I expect that, I understand that. The transmission and the engine, I feel, work together really well. But then you have My Drive, which is unique. Now, My Drive is basically a mode that is thinking about your passengers. They actually call this baby mode. So if you have an infant or a toddler that is sleeping in the vehicle, what My Drive does is it actually puts the vehicle into a mode where it's purposely making sure that its shifts are more intentional and more smooth, right? Because it's trying to help you not disturb your passengers. And I think that's unique. I think that's interesting. I think that's awesome. But what I think is, I think there's something missing in here. You either need to have a normal mode or you need to have a sport mode with a little bit less regen, because I want to be able to drive it in a way where I can get a little sporty with it, right? Just a little sporty, and the transmission isn't just so focusing on economy that I can be a little more lively with it, and it's going to respond the way that I want without all that added regen braking. So maybe there's another drive mode you could put in there, or maybe just ease off the regen braking in sport mode. Now, I understand this is a hybrid, this is about efficiency, and I get it. So if you are buying this vehicle, you're probably not doing a whole lot of really aggressive enthusiast type driving. So it's nice to have something that has that extra power. I tell you what, you drive it in eco mode, you're used to it. You drive it in My Drive mode, which I've actually really come to like, driving around town in My Drive mode. Overall, I really like the way the transmission and the engine work together. That's what matters most to me. So I really got to test out the things that you would use when you're going long distance. So think about your adaptive cruise control. They are calling this smart cruise control. You have lane keeping assist, you have lane following assist. When you get in here and you put it in cruise control, the cruise control works really well. I did that. You've got the buttons on the left side of the steering wheel for that. While it is helping you stay in your lane, you can have cruise control without without it worrying about the lane. But if you turn everything on and you have that lane keep assist, that lane following assist on with your adaptive cruise control, not only is it trying to keep you at the speed you want that you set to it, it's trying to keep you at the safe distance, the grade of distance that you've actually chosen between you and the vehicle in front of you, but it's also trying to keep you in the lanes. It just wants you to keep your hand on the steering wheel, but it's nice because you can kind of rest your hands in a comfortable place, kind of lightly keep your hands on the steering wheel where you're still in control, but you'll feel that steering wheel kind of helping you with those micro movements to keep you in the lane if you want. For long distance, I don't mind that. I think that's great. In town, it's a little much for me. I don't want any of that going on. I tend to turn my lane keep assist off and I just want to drive. But when you're cruising down the highway long distance and just being able to lightly keep my hands on the wheel does a lot to help you with fatigue. So this is not a full self-driving system. This isn't anything like that, but it's a nice, smart cruise control. Lightly keep your hands on the wheel, and you do have the infrared watching you in your eyes, and it's going to give you messages on your screen, like when it thinks you're getting tired, it's going to say maybe you should take a break, or if it finds you being overly distracted and looking away, you know, maybe you should take a break, you need to stretch your legs a little bit. I actually don't mind that. The cruise control on this vehicle worked very well. I understand that we are in this weird space of time right now where you don't have completely 100%, I don't have to pay attention full self-driving in any vehicle out there. Everything has some level of attention that you have to keep paying. We're in this weird world in the middle where the vehicle is trying to do some functions for you, but you still have to fully pay attention and babysit it. And if you don't know how to use those systems, that can actually become more tiresome than just driving all by yourself with no systems on. Babysitting something and monitoring something can really wear you out. So if you can find a comfortable sweet spot in your cruise control, I actually think that's nice. And I was able to find that in this vehicle as I'm cruising down the road long distance. All right, everyone, let's wrap things up here on this 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid Limited all-wheel drive. Guys, I have been really pleasantly surprised with how much I've enjoyed driving this car. You know, sometimes you get things in this segment and you have all these kind of preconceived notion that it's going to feel or be just like everything else, and this doesn't. I really think they've made an effort here to make this an enjoyable driving experience, and you don't always find that, especially with hybrids. So everything from the steering ratio on this and the way that the vehicle responds to your inputs, to the exterior styling, to the comfort, to the extra power of the hybrid system. I like the stylish 19-inch wheels on here as well. I really think that they've done a nice job of making kind of a good all-around, fun to drive and efficient SUV. So I'm really excited that I got to spend a lot of time in this vehicle and really learn what it's like, because you can tell the people that designed it, that put the work into this vehicle, really did a nice job of thinking about not only the passengers, and not only is it a nice place to just sit and be in, but it's nice to drive as well. And we appreciate that here at Drive It Out. All right, guys, you have found us here on YouTube. We are also on Instagram at DriveItOut. I'm personally on Instagram at Naturally Aspirated Adam. Thank you guys so much for watching this in-depth review. You guys are the reason that I'm able to continue doing this. I've been doing this for a little over 5 years now, and I'm really having a lot of fun. I'm meeting great people. I'm getting to drive great vehicles. So anytime I can bring an in-depth review to you that maybe help you with your buying decision, your buying process, I really get excited about that. Guys, we also have quick test drive reviews. We just did a bunch of those. Check those out. Also, we have walk-around reviews at some of the biggest auto shows around, and those are very fun to do as well. So I really want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you very much to Hyundai for letting me drive this week. And guys, I really, again, I hope this is helpful to you. So I will see you in the next review. And don't forget, when in doubt, drive it out.